Hello everybody and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. And just a quick announcement, our conference is not that far away. November doesn't seem that far away, time flies. But anyway, we have added another feature to the conference. I haven't even had time to post it on our online flyer yet, which is going to be a Sunday afternoon session dedicated to the vaccine, free speech, employee rights, harm from vaccines. It'll be a panel discussion that I think that you'll find pretty riveting. We're going to have it back here at the office, and another reason why you need to be with us November 8th through 10th here in Columbus, Ohio. All right. Well, I said we would pick up the USDA hearing in this video clip, so here goes. A second group of presenters, we talked about the plant-based folks on Tuesday, a second group of presenters didn't discuss dietary recommendations specifically, but for various reasons had an interest in the outcome of the Dietary Guidelines Committee. Becky Demokos Bays, a registered dietitian from the School Nutrition Association, weighed at least 350 pounds. I guess my impression is what a great person to be planning meals for school children. She could hardly waddle her way down to the microphone to deliver her talk. Her comments included that school food is a great way to expose children to foods like meat, dairy, and vegetables that they might not otherwise eat. I was thinking to myself, tell me where the kids are who aren't exposed to enough meat and dairy in particular. I'd like to see who those kids are. She also stated that school lunches are always much better than the lunches that are packed at home, a belief shared by many people who think that the government knows what's best for everybody and that parents should turn the lives and care of their children over to the education system. She did make one important point. I really did understand her frustration with this, that the guidelines for school food are different for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. And so it makes it almost impossible to operate a school food division efficiently when the guidelines are different depending on what meal you're talking about. I mean, I would be frustrated with that too, so I think she had a valid point. Another obese dietitian from the Eat Well Exchange talked about food deserts, which is an issue, and also about the fact that dietary guidelines should be developed in consideration of ethnic groups because people should eat like their ancestors. And I took a little bit of issue with this because I think the dietary pattern of eating plant-based foods, well, they might be different, prepared differently in various ethnic groups using different spices and that sort of thing, but I just don't really think we need a separate dietary guidelines for Native Americans and a separate dietary guidelines for Indian Americans, from India. So anyway, Shanice Wall from the National Consumers League argued that portion control is the key because then everything can be eaten in moderation. I think the most embarrassing presentation was made by Pepin Tuna from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, who offered no suggestions, but instead spent his entire time at the microphone gushing over how well the committees have done in the past, how much confidence the AND has in the committee's skills, dedication, and ability to arrive at the right conclusions, and he knew that the committee was going to do a good job. He went on and on and on. He missed the cutoff. They had to tell him to be quiet and sit down. And I think that it sort of speaks volumes that the AND had no suggestions about diet, just really wanted to, they sent a cheerleader sycophant rather than a person to talk about what's wrong with the guidelines. And I think it was a tremendous missed opportunity and I was embarrassed for this person. The usual presentations from the food manufacturers and the ag groups were also part of the event. Some were predictable. The National Potato Council thinks that people should eat more potatoes, so if they represented a plant-based group, that was great. Eating more of that's good, but others were almost hard to believe. The agriculture group seemed to have decided collectively that they were going to coordinate their presentations, and the central theme this year was choline deficiency. It's a new epidemic in our country, and the best sources are beef, dairy, and eggs. According to presenters, people who don't eat these foods become choline deficient, and this is an underlying cause of all of the diseases we're dealing with now in the United States. It's a new twist and perhaps designed to give new reasons for people to eat meat, dairy, and eggs, since some of the old reasons are getting, well, old. Some other choice comments from the groups that I'll share with you. Casey Gallimore from the North American Meat Institute said protein's an essential nutrient. Meat's a convenient source, and teenage girls and pregnant women must eat meat in order to get enough iron. Iron supplements, beans, and plant foods are not a substitute for meat. Clara Lau from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association reported that beef is a foundational food that nourishes people through all life stages. Furthermore, Americans like it. Well, that's a reason to eat it. Americans like wine too, but I don't think we need testimony on the benefits of drinking wine. Meat reduces the risk of sarcopenia, or loss of muscle mass, which is good news for people who want to believe that you're going to build strength and strong bodies in the kitchen. She says that every calorie counts, so it's very important to eat meat because no other food delivers nutrients like meat does. And Clara actually said that meat contributes to heart health. Americans aren't consuming enough of it, and they could and should eat more. Dr. Mickey Rubin from the Egg Board reports that nutrients needed by humans are found in eggs, and that what you should do is eat eggs with vegetables because the eggs help you to absorb the nutrients from vegetables. So you get a lot of comedic relief. You can't laugh out loud, obviously. You have to sit there in a controlled environment, but OMG, right? Marie Cottle from Cornell University Nutrition Sciences Department was a great asset for the animal foods group. She says that the best source of nutrients is animal foods, and that people who eat a plant-based diet run the risk of choline deficiency. Apparently meat eaters can become deficient too, because the best thing to do is to eat meat and take choline supplements, and choline supplementation is really important for pregnant women and children. Continuing theme throughout, they all talked about choline. Michaela Hanselman from the National Milk Producers Federation says all Americans need 3 servings of dairy per day, and that plant milk is not a good substitute. The reason the 3 servings per day needs to be emphasized is that it's really hard for people to take in enough calcium and vitamin D every day. So she must have missed the day in school when they talked about hormones, because vitamin D is a hormone, not a vitamin. Talk about that all the time, but that really doesn't seem to be catching on. Science doesn't seem to be catching on in certain circles. Jill Nichols, a dietitian with the National Dairy Council, echoed the 3 servings a day mantra and reported the equivalent amount of calcium from other foods is just not the same. Now, she is right about that. The risk of cancer and juvenile diabetes doesn't increase when calcium is consumed from plant sources. She went on to say that dairy is appealing, accessible, and affordable. In fact, the cheapest source of calcium, which might be true if you don't figure in all the sickness that develops from people consuming the dairy. She added that it's responsibly produced as well, which caused one of my colleagues to say during the break that her testimony just shows that with enough money, you can get people to say almost anything. All right, well, that concludes part 2. We'll pick this up next week. As usual, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. Pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and we'll continue next Tuesday with more news.